Okay, hey everybody, welcome. We are here shooting another video for your pleasure. Very much your pleasure.
Yeah, very much your pleasure.
Today we're going to be talking about how to sell your Texas land, whether that be a farm, a ranch, or land in general.
Whatever it is, we did, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, continue, Andrew. For those of you that are wondering how to sell Texas land in general, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. We're gonna try to cover as much as we can. We'll leave some stuff in the description for your resources. A lot of people just don't want to start that process blind, not knowing what they do. So we're gonna try to help show you what we're doing here. And in the meantime, I do recommend contact a professional, whether that's a 1031 exchange attorney, a CPA, or a qualified land broker like myself. Bing, bing. Let's get started. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, the first step that we have for you today, and this is going to be kind of granular. We're going to get into it,
right.
But
We gotta preface it.
We got to do it. The first thing you're going to do before you sell your Texas land is gather all the info.
Yeah.
The reason being is because any informed buyer is gonna want to know everything about your property. No one just buys a property sight unseen, not knowing any of the technicals. So having all that information gathered beforehand so you know about your property is very helpful. So anybody that's serious will want to know all that. So what do we need to figure out?
I mean, I'm thinking just because I do mainly residential sales, if we don't have all our ducks in a row when we go list a house, game over. Might as well not even do it. I'm gonna quit.
So I've got a pretty thorough list. Again, I might link this down in the description depending on how much energy I have after this video. But here's just some things that you should be gathering before you start selling your land. First off, we want a general description of your land. What ecoregion are you in? What kind of topography do you have? Is it gently rolling? Is it flat? Do you have a lot of brush density? What kind of grasses do you have on the property? How much precipitation do you get on that property? Do you have any water features? Anything like that can help. There's a lot of good information if you just search ecoregions in Texas. If you find your specific ecoregion, it can tell you a lot about what yours hosts. It's also good to have grass identity, knowing what you have, what kind of brushes you have. So that's just the basic. Number two, how many acres do you have? Now that seems kind of like we should know to include that, right? But do you have a survey? Sometimes what you advertise and what you really have can be different.
Yeah.
So if you've got a survey, that's awesome. That's going to help the buyer a lot. You don't have to have it. The buyer will get one most likely. So if you've got that, that'd be great to provide. A lot of things I'm going to get into: improvements. What kind of improvements does your ranch have? For example, do you have boundary fences? Are they in good shape? Are they average? Do you have cross fencing for cattle? Are they in good shape? Do you have pens? Do you have wells? If you do have wells, what's the depth on those bad boys? What's
the depth on those bad boys? How thick we talking?
Yeah.
What those wells look like?
How deep is the well? How new is the pump? What is the gallons per minute? If your well has been drilled recently, you can go to the Texas Water Board. I can't remember the exact website, but they'll have all those well reports. Yeah. Definitely good to provide. Some other things. What conveys with the property? Do you have hunting blinds? Do you have feeders? Do you have chutes? Do you have gates? Are those conveying? Those are good to know for the buyer.
Yeah.
Some other things. What kind of access do you have to your property? Do you have paved frontage? Paved frontage is a huge selling point. You're going to want to advertise that. Do you have county road frontage? That's a great selling point too.
You got an easement.
Yeah, and if you don't have those, how do people get to your property? Is it by an easement? Speaking of easements.
Speaking of easements.
Is there an easement on your property?
Is there an easement?
Yeah.
You don't know what an easement is. Corey, tell them what an easement is.
It's just basically the right for somebody to use someone else's property to get to theirs. So
I had to learn that the hard way. I was with my girlfriend Candace out on a farm one day.
Is this real?
Yeah, you know Candace.
I don't think I do.
Candace
I wish we could put that in. Some other things, obviously I don't want to get too much in the residential, but if you've got a home, we're going to know, the buyer will want to know about that home. Is there a septic out there, and how far away is it from the house? When's the last time that's been pumped? That's good information.
Always know when your wells have been pumped or your septic. You always want to know when your septic's been pumped.
Yeah, and
it's a lot of turds.
If it's raw land, do you have electricity to it? And if not, where's the closest electric line? Because that costs, I mean, things are changing now, but that can cost you $8 to $10 a foot, linear foot, to bring out to your property.
That's a lot.
And a lot of people are wanting deer camps and building homesteads on their property, so they're going to want to know how much it's going to cost to bring out electricity to your place. So, minerals, that's also a very important thing to cover. Do you know how many minerals you own? And how many is going to convey with the property? And something that's been coming up more recently, is there those big giant white windmills kind of close to your property? Oof. Because if there is, maybe you want to keep those air rights, or wind rights.
Not on my property.
Not on my property.
I'm not getting no windmill. Get out of here, government.
One other thing, a lot of people want to know about soils. What does your soil map look like? And if you wanted to, you can actually search your property. If you go to the nrcs.usda.gov,
nice, man.
They have a web soil survey. Kind of hard to use once you figure it out. You can actually pinpoint what kind of soils and the maps on your property. Very informational.
Yeah, hopefully it's fertile soil.
Oh yeah, it's fertile.
You can grow lima beans out there.
Water features. Obviously, water is a huge selling point if you've got stock ponds, if you've got a creek, if you've got river frontage, man, you've got to have that up in your writing. So I think that covers mostly, again, it doesn't hurt to be as thorough as possible. No buyer is going to get mad at you for giving them as much information as possible. So anything you can think about with your property, provide that.
Good to know.
So
rule of thumb.
Boom.
Was that the whole thing?
That was one.
So numero dos, this is where we find a lot of people, me personally in residential sales, is where a lot of people will neglect and miss out on what they could be getting as pricing. If you don't know what you're getting yourself into, really, I mean, I hate to plug it, but if you're not working with like a broker who knows what they're talking about, the chances of you getting priced out of the market could be very high, or not getting what you should get for the land.
Yeah, pricing is actually really important, probably one of the most important steps next to marketing when selling your property. Anybody can just slap up a price on your property and put it up on Lands of Texas, and they wonder why is it not selling? Well, obviously the market's telling you something, you might be overpriced, and there's ways to figure out what your property is really worth. Now, of course, this is going to depend on your preference. If you could sit on the market for 7 years and overlist it, that's up to you. You can do that. If you're willing to sell, if you want to sell relatively close, you're going to want to be competitive compared to what other people around you are selling. And a good way to look up what your property could be worth is recently solds, what we called comps or comparables. This gets a little tricky because I've never seen two ranches or farms be exactly the same. So I've heard a lot of people say, well, old Joe Bob over there sold his for $3 million.
They talk like that?
All of them.
Joe Bob. $3 million.
And Joe Bob has got 400 more acres than them, and so they think they could get close to that.
Yeah.
But really what we're looking for is a price per acre point. Generally we want to be really close in sales. I'd like to be within one. Sometimes you have to make your window a little higher, but 1 to 2 years. It just depends on what the market has been doing lately.
Definitely.
And also just valuing that A property versus B property. I mean, if they're overgrazed and you've got native grasses, or you've got riverfront and they don't, those things have to be considered. You're going to be more on the top of the range versus them. So I know that's a little tricky, but you can look up sales on landsoftexas.com also. A realtor has access to MLS sold listings. Lands of Texas, you've got to pay for their service, but it's very useful.
He pays for it.
Yeah, I got to pay for it to be competitive. But
I pay for it.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
A rule of thumb that can help you in your pricing. There it is. There's the rule. If you're getting a lot of showings on your property, but you're not getting any offers, that could be an indication that you're overpriced. Maybe you've got good marketing, you're getting lots of showings, but you might be overpriced. Another rule of thumb is if you're not getting any showings, you've probably got a marketing problem or an overpriced problem. So if you're pushing out really good content out there, but you're not getting any showings, then you're probably overpriced. So good, always keep your fingers on the pulse of the market, and that's a good way to do that. So
you gotta know the comps.
Yeah,
for sure.
Comps for sure.
Comps for sure.
Sure.
All right, bro.
And then be competitively priced. I know I'm droning on here, but if somebody else is going to come into your specific county and they're looking for a property and somebody else has got, let's just say the exact same property and they're a little bit underpriced, obviously they're going to be going for that property. So be competitively priced with your features also. Number 3, marketing. I think this is one of the most important things right next to pricing that you can do for your property.
Wow.
Now, marketing is a very broad term and a lot of people use it kind of loosely.
Most people do.
But we've got a defined list of what we do with marketing because we want to take your property and just really make it shine.
Totally.
So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna show you our cards.
Let's show them. I got 4 aces.
Okay, so like Andrew said, marketing is much more than just going out and taking a few photos with your Nokia flip phone. We want to get high quality photos. We want to really highlight the best features of your property. And it's not just taking a photo of your stream. We want to stream maybe with like some sunset photos on a wide lens. We want great drone photography that really picks up some great angles for your property, like if it's rolling, for example, and it shows all the brush density. I love when we get a drone out there and there's some whitetail running. I mean, that really sells a property.
And someone's just getting ready to shoot it.
Yeah.
And it's me out of a helicopter.
That's illegal, don't do that. But also, videography, man. We really want to sell a story, or your property with a story. I mean, we want to go through the property, really get that emotional, those heartstrings, get somebody to say, wow, that looks like a great property.
Yeah.
And if your property is really more for hunting, man, let's get some footage of it, of maybe like somebody stalking a deer on there, even if it's fake, right? Or what if you're into horses on that ranch? Some riding your horses on that ranch
Some equestrian activities.
Yes, would be terrific. It helps sell that story. Even if you're just got some cattle, man, just seeing some cattle come out of a gate and go into a fresh pasture really helps.
Right.
I mean, it's not just taking pictures or selling your property, which is totally different from everyone else's property. It's your ranch and everybody should know how valuable it is.
Totally. We want to paint the picture of what your place is and let everybody else see that. And like he just said, each property has a different story.
Yeah.
So it's got to be painted differently.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so it's much more than just capturing content. Content, like we like to say, is king. Distribution is queen. We want to put this on the, yeah, you like that?
I love that.
We want to push this content to the appropriate places where buyers will be looking. We want to put it on places like Lands of Texas, Lands and Farm, Land Watch. We like to put it on the MLS system too, not only one, but two MLS systems. We also put it on a commercial website that's specific to Lubbock and realtors.
Yeah.
Not that you have to do that, but certainly helps.
Well, we take care of doing that, so.
And it's not just putting it on that website and just kind of hoping and praying. What we also like to do is target an audience through social media. We like to push it out on social media. Anybody that shows interest, we're going to try to push it more to them so they keep putting eyes on that and hopefully push them to the website. So they fill out information and we get them, we get in contact with them, and the rest is history.
Just like when you're on your phone and you're talking about t-shirts, you see an ad for t-shirts on Instagram.
Yeah.
Same with land. We're going to find you.
We're gonna hunt you down.
Know where you go. Yeah, we're gonna advertise. Number 4. So if you've done the marketing right, now it's game time, baby. Now you're showing the land or whatever you got. So you're showing the land. You gotta ask yourself questions. Is it accessible 4-wheel drive? How are people gonna get there? Are there any easements? Is there any fences or gates or anything like that? Do you want to be there while other people are there? Do you want your agent there with you? All these questions you're going to need to ask yourself, because when it comes to showing it, you're going to want as many people in there as you can get, just so that more eyes have been on your land, on your property.
The potential buyers are going to want to know the highlights of your property, and if they just kind of go in there nilly-willy, they have no idea what they're doing. You got a piece of property with roads that they can't hardly see sometimes, so really need to have somebody there showing that property that knows where they're going and showing those great features of that property.
Yep.
And also, this happens a few times, people don't know where property boundaries are. You don't want to be trespassing in Texas. We know what happens there.
No, you don't.
So,
you're gonna get shot straight in the butt.
Number 5 is where you get to cake. I'm just not gonna say that.
Number 5 is when you get to have your cake and eat it too.
Yes, sir.
And boy, is that cake tasty.
We hope.
I'm
Number
thinking
5.
it's red velvet.
I like chocolate.
I like vanilla.
Okay, enough about cake. Number 5.
Ice cream cake.
Please shut up. Okay, so you've got the offer. Now, this is where the money can be made or lost.
Yep.
It's much more than just price. There's a lot of things that come into it, like the title policy. Generally, that's paid for by a seller. Sometimes it's not if it's a really competitive offer. There's a lot of things we need to look at, like what type of financing do they have? Is the person that's bringing the financing, are they usually doing land loans? This is important because I've seen a lot of times where people bring in financing that doesn't specialize in land loans, and we get really hairy with the agricultural exemption thing. That can get really tricky.
Don't want to get hairy with agriculture.
You want to make sure that those people, if they're not bringing cash, that the financier deals specifically with land, farm, and ranch. That's very important. Some other things, if they're bringing cash, a lot of people say they're bringing cash but don't have proof. You're going to want proof of funds there. Also, really important, and Andrew knows a lot about this in the residential world, is negotiation. This is where the money can be made or lost, like I said earlier. If you put it on a per dollar, a dollar per hour basis on a really big piece of land, let's just say you've got $1 million listing and they bring in 800,000. Negotiating that 200,000 within the hour. Think about how much you're getting paid per hour. That's $200,000 per hour.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets really important.
It gets dicey.
Well, not just dicey. You just have to know and be experienced with negotiating.
It doesn't get dicey. Dude, I really like your hat.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'll give you $35 for it.
$35, huh?
Yep.
Well, you know, this is a one of a kind hat. With the global supply chain, there's not many of these. I don't think I could let this bad boy go for less than $100. Okay, and some other important things about the contract. Nice hat, by the way.
Hey, thanks, man.
Just wrapping up on the contract, some other things that are important to consider. If they're bringing financing, likely they're going to have an appraisal. Really important to get a survey done if there's not one provided. Those guys are backed up a few weeks, sometimes even longer. So you want to try to get that scheduled ASAP.
ASAP. Huge.
Just, know the contract, read it if you haven't before. It's really important. The last part is acceptance and execution.
You done did it.
You done did it.
You done did it, and look at you.
A lot of people get hung up on the clerical side. I mean, you've basically got to third base. You're running home now.
Ooh, third base?
Third base, baby. And they get hung up on the clerical side wondering what they need to do. The title company and the lender are going to take care of a lot. Honestly, they're not going to close unless they've got the right documentation. So they're going to be calling you if you don't have the right stuff.
You don't want that to be happening.
Yeah.
Especially on a multi-million-dollar piece of land, potentially.
Right. You want to have all your ducks in a row before, and you don't. And if you're really trying to close fast too, I mean, it's good to have that stuff lined up.
Totally.
But yeah, some things that usually happen on this clerical side, like I mentioned before, we want the appraisal to come in. Hopefully there's no renegotiation on that. The survey, if there's a difference in the survey acreage, you advertise 300 acres and it came in at 290 and you're at 1,000 per acre. Obviously there's going to be a little discrepancy there you got to figure out. So again, don't stress out too much about the clerical, though. A lot of people think they can't sell a piece of property because of they don't know what's happening on the clerical side. This is where the land agents, the title companies, the lenders, they all take care of it for you, and you just get to sit back and enjoy your money. So,
which is fun.
Boom! We did it.
Did we do it?
All right, well, that was really thorough. We really hope that was informative for you, that we kind of got into the thick of it. It wasn't near as humorous as the first one, but hey, we wanted to be informative. We hope you're not going in blind to this. And like I said before, if you need some help, if you've been vetting agents, maybe you just don't know what to do, I'm your man. I'd love to help you. My digits are down below. We hope to keep making more videos like this. Again, this is what we got to do. Like, subscribe, comment, do all that. No, but it really does help. It helps when you do that.
It helps a lot.
And like I said, we're going to be putting up more stuff. So
yep.
Thank you for tuning
tuned.
in. And that's how you sell your Texas land.
Next.